What's going on? This is TJ Murphy, and welcome to another episode of Adventurous Entrepreneurs. My guest today is Leslie Hassler, founder of Your Biz Rules, business scaling expert, and author of the upcoming book, Scaling Rich. Leslie shares her transformative journey from accidental entrepreneurship to becoming a sought-after advisor, helping entrepreneurs create freedom-generating businesses. In this episode, we dive into the art of redefining success, breaking free from the hustle and grind culture, and embracing intentional business strategies that align with your life goals. Leslie explains how to craft a clear vision, master predictable profitability, and build a business that serves you, not the other way around. So, whether you're aiming for financial freedom, preparing your business for sale, or simply seeking a way to scale without burning out, this episode is packed with the actionable insights and inspiration that you need. Just a few of the golden takeaways Leslie's going to share with you in this episode are how to create a vision-led business that aligns with your life goals, the concept of scaling rich and why it's the future of entrepreneurship, strategies for managing cash flow and building predictable profitability, the key to scaling without sacrificing your energy or freedom, and how to prepare your business for a lucrative and successful exit. So, without further ado, this is me and Leslie Hassler. Welcome to the Adventurous Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm your host, TJ Murphy. Since quitting my corporate 9-to-5 and starting a business while backpacking through Asia back in early 2017, I've had the privilege of learning from some incredibly adventurous entrepreneurs. Through these conversations and my own journey, I've learned that much like in life, entrepreneurship is an adventure. On this podcast, I explore the journeys of top-performing leaders in their fields. These wide-ranging conversations include tactical business advice, how I built this insights, lessons in leadership, life hacks, travel stories, favorite hobbies, and insights into living a purposeful and joy-filled life. Adventures await us, so let's dive in. Hey, Leslie, welcome to Adventurous Entrepreneurs.
Howdy, TJ. Good to be here.
Oh, excited to have you here. Let's just get into it because we have a lot of ground to cover. I'm really excited. And I'd love to start with just a bit of background on you and the journey. Can you take us back to the early days of Your Biz Rules? Like, what inspired you to start your business, and how has your vision evolved over the past 17 years? Am I right?
Yeah. So, Your Biz Rules came around about 10 years ago. So I've actually been an entrepreneur for 17 years. And it's been a journey. I like how you said that because it describes it, full of peaks and valleys and detours and good times and all that nice fun stuff. But I actually started my entrepreneurship journey, I like to say, on accident. I found out on a Wednesday that I wasn't going to have a job by Friday. And it had happened to me a lot because I was working for other small businesses. And, spoiler alert, it wasn't because I was a bad employee. It was more because small businesses have challenges when it comes to cash flow and profitability. And honestly, time and time again, it would be, you're great, you're awesome, you do so much for us, we just can't afford to pay you.
Yep.
And so I put my little thinking cap on and opened up a business by Monday. So not a whole lot of planning there. While there was some planning, but super, super fast. But yeah, like you said, I've gone through, that was in 2007. So went through the recession. That was lovely times. Nothing like seeing half your business washed away. Poosh. Yeah. Followed by a couple of years that I termed the Hard Day's Night. After the Beatles album, if you know why they named that album. And then really the journey that proceeded from about 2011 to 14 when I opened up Your Biz Rules was a very soulful journey where I wasn't happy in my first business and I wanted to do something else. And so I kind of went into a period of reflection. I mean, honestly, I just walked around and said, okay, God, if it's not this, then what? If it's not this, then what?
Show me the direction.
Show me the direction. And of course, I wanted like neon signs and flashing arrows and, super clear signs. Show me the way. But yeah, that led me to Your Biz Rules. And we've been doing this for about 10 years. I say Your Biz Rules is the payoff for everything that went wrong in my first business. This is our playground. is the way I look at it. We get to do some phenomenal things with our work and things like that. And really the last 10 years have been about refining what the vision is, and how to create a business that serves me more than I serve it.
Love that. Tell me more about that.
Well, so this is a concept we've been working on, and it's a part of our second book, which is coming out early 2025, and it's called Scaling Rich. And part of it is a little bit of a theme or thesis about the hustle and grind, whereas I feel that that's antiquated. It's part of our old paradigm, but we don't know how to shift into a new paradigm. And what is that new paradigm? And I truly believe that businesses are tremendous vehicles. They're vehicles for transformation. They're vehicles for freedom. They're vehicles for expression and impact and legacy. However, if you get locked into the hustle and grind, you're just going to wind up broken tired. 99% of the people out there will wind up broken tired.
Every day.
What's the new way? What's the new path? And I was actually talking to a client about this last week. I was like, what if it wasn't hard? What if it was easy? What if it happened faster? Like detaching from some of these normal, I guess, markers that we have felt that you have to have in business. Time is a marker. How hard you work is a marker. These aren't what creates success anymore. These are constructs that actually slow people down. And that's that part of that shift that we're really passionate about helping people achieve and find for themselves in a business, but in a way that's uniquely about them. Not about me, not what I want for my business, not what TJ wants for his business, but finding out what's the vision, why it matters, where you're settling, and how to get from where you are to where you want to be in a very authentic, meaningful way.
Yes. I always like to say it as like, if you're getting into business, you should design it around the life that you want to live. Not just the aspirational in the future, once I've made it 30 years from now and have this mega company. No, how do you want it to look day one?
Today.
1 year in, 5 years in? How's it going to look once you have kids, you marry, whatever your life, your dream life looks like, thinking about it all from the get-go, and then designing the business in such a way. It's something that isn't a part of the mainstream narrative, right? You were alluding to the fact that there's just this picture of what success looks like, and it's grinding perpetually. But yeah, there's a season where you got to grind a business. I mean, you got to work hard, of course, but if that is just the norm, that is it. What's the point, right?
Yeah. And we go through periods of launch and push, with our businesses as well. It's just that we have recovery too, and we're very conscious about that. But as you were sharing, I was reminded of a neighbor one time. We got a little lab puppy, cutest little bit, and I was holding her in my lap, and my neighbor came over and she goes, I'm not going to tell you how to raise your dogs. I'm just going to perhaps ask you the question, is this what you would want a 100-pound lab to be doing in your lap in 3 years? And I looked at her and I was like, no. Picked up the dog, put it down on the ground, right? But that speaks to that level of intention of not creating rewards for ourselves, like when I've worked hard enough, I will do X, Y, and Z. And people do this all the time with like profitability. When we're big enough, we'll be profitable. But entrepreneurs are a really strange breed. We like to set this finish line out there, and we race, and we're working hard to get to the finish line. And just when we get to it, we move it because suddenly it's not good enough. We could have done more. We could have done, it differently. It wasn't perfect, whatever. And I think that's what we do with things like profitability. And when you set those aspects up in your business as a reward, then you actually never get them, because you're constantly moving the finish line. What would be enough to have the reward? But if you can start living some of that now, why not?
Why not? I totally agree. So is that kind of the premise of Scaling Rich, your upcoming book? Give us a little teaser of what that's all about.
Yeah, so Scaling Rich it was written really for people who have achieved that level of success and they're now going, now what? Now, sometimes you can get into that level of success and go, I'm so worn out from what it cost me to get to where I'm at. I don't want to stop growing, but I don't have a new vision of how to do this. And so we look at really business and life very holistically. Everyone's like work-life balance, and I appreciate and I want that. However, I had balance explained to me once, like being on a surfboard, that you can only be in one place at one time, and you're either on the surfboard or you're off. And the minute you lose presence, that's when you lose balance. And I think that's really important to think about as you look at work and life. For entrepreneurs, I don't think it's a black and a white. A 8 p.m. work stops and life starts, right? I don't know about for you, TJ, but it blends all over the place. I'm thinking about work in the shower.
Yeah, blend. Someone told me on this podcast, actually, they're like, balance, I mean, one thing is slightly off and now you're out of balance. No, entrepreneurship should be a blend of work and life, and how can you blend it harmoniously in whatever way that looks like for you.
Yeah. So Scaling Rich really goes through every component of the business, how you've designed your business, how you brought in team structure, time management, how you view those things, and is offering a way that first off treats everyone in the business with dignity. So the owner is treated with dignity, the employees, the clients. I think a lot of times we don't practice the oxygen mask analogy, right? We put everybody first, but then we're not treating ourselves with dignity. At the same time, I don't think businesses have to profiteer off of other people to be successful. So how do we treat others with dignity in that kind of equation? And then just use it to create wealth, because that's the other vehicle that really a business can do is it creates cash. Let me rephrase it. It creates cash. What you do with it creates wealth, right? And it's just, you can use your business as a tool to design your life and construct your life. It doesn't have to be an adversary. And that's, going back to our work-life balance, it puts us in an adversarial role. It's an this or that, whereas, like you said, it's a blend. It's it's work and life. But that's kind of a little bit of the philosophy that we share in Scaling Rich.
Very cool. Well, excited to read it when it drops. Do you have a date?
Not a firm one. we actually I actually have the proof copy. Haha. This one's coming out first, so this is dropping in by late October, early November 2024. A little bit more of the fundamentals of building a business, and then Scaling Rich, we're shooting March, April of 2025.
Amazing. So you talk about transforming small businesses into freedom generating machines, and I love that. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see entrepreneurs facing when trying to create a business that doesn't just grow but also gives them that freedom that they're looking for?
I think first off is the vision, is understanding really what the vision is, being super clear with that and using it as a bit of a North Star to guide all the decisions. So when we make individual decisions because we're basing it in the hustle and the grind, then we're really cutting ourselves off from that vision, because perhaps we make sacrifices or we settle for something less. When we make more decisions based in our vision, then we're making smarter, more strategic decisions. For instance, my current number is 10 million. That's where I can see this business going. Do I make decisions as a $100,000 business owner, a $500,000 business owner, $1 million business owner, or am I making a decision as a $10 million business owner? And those are scary decisions because they take a lot of faith in there. But I'm making decisions. I've chosen to make the decisions on that $10 million, right? Because I would choose differently than I would on any other given day if I keep that vision in mind. So there's just one way how that can be such a strengthening factor for your business. But I think as well is what people, we have a couple of things we say in houses. In order to grow, you have to let go. And people have a tendency to not let go. There's a lot of reasons for that. How they view their personal worth, which is a very subconscious story. How they view, asking for help, or whether or not they're ready to hire a team. If they've ever hired the wrong team member, which goodness gracious, I have. Yep. I don't know about you, TJ.
I feel like you have to at some point.
You have to, but we have, like my current COO, I hired people for that position for 4 years before I found her. Right? And if I had been too afraid to hire, I don't know that I would have hired her. But it's the vision again. Yeah. The vision's what kept me committed to getting better at my hiring, getting clear in what I was looking for, and also asking better questions, I think, in the interview process that got me to where we are. But I'll tell you, like, our job descriptions, they are the weirdest job descriptions out there, because they're not built on this typical task. Where, like, if you feel like you often think faster than other people think, we want to talk to you. Okay. If you can solve 4 problems at the same time, we want to talk to you. Like, we are hiring so much more for.
You want to speak to a very small set of people, and if each of those questions resonates, they're like, all right, well, I'm interested because they're describing me, so clearly I must be the right person for this.
Yeah, and we just recently hired for another position, and this is where we've tweaked this language a little bit more, and we're getting those people, and we're like, oh, hallelujah, it's working, right? But it takes time and practice and practicum in order to get to that part. And I think too many people are afraid to go through the learning to get there.
Yeah. Well, I'm really curious about what you said a couple minutes ago. The decision making. Am I going to make decisions from a place of being where I was, a $100,000 business versus a $10 million business? From your experience, like, what do you find is different about making that decision? Just speaking from personal experience yourself, what's the difference between those two?
It always comes down to what money you're willing to spend.
The risk, yeah. That's
the risk. Yeah. For me personally, I'm like, how do I explain it? Compared to my husband, who's very risk averse, I am very risk okay. Like, I'm willing to take a risk and mitigate it. Let it boom, right? I'm quick to action. It's always considered, but a lot of people outside of, if they were in my head, they would understand how much thought. But usually I'm like, we won't know until we know. So let's just go. Let's get in. Let's get out. If it doesn't pan out, I'll pull the cord. But if it does, then we're on to something good. But I think it does come down to the level of investments you're willing to make, how frequently you're willing to make them, how okay you are with the risk that you're going to learn along the way. So I think even last year, I was asking myself, we've made some big investments this year, and I was like, okay, what would the $10 million me tell me? And I was like, the $10 million me would tell me to do it. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go do it. I'll find a way to pay. I'll write the check. I'll be okay with it. We'll make it happen. And I think that I also, what enables me or gives me the freedom to be able to do that is I trust I can always make more money.
Yeah. There's so much possibility out there. If you've got the skills to pay the bills, you can always, start from zero and a year later have a thriving business. We see it even faster now in this day and age. So.
Because it's not time bound anymore. No. Right? Back to what we started talking about at the beginning. It's not time bound.
It's a beautiful time. Beautiful time
I know.
in business.
Wild, Wild West.
Yep. So let's talk about the burnout piece, because that's where so many people find themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And for many, growth often just comes at the cost of burnout. Like, what are
Yep.
you, when you're talking to people in that situation, what are you advising them? Like, what tips do you have for maintaining energy, preventing that burnout, and scaling with stability towards whatever that pursuit is? Some people, it is just the dollar amount. For most, I think it's the freedom. But what advice do you give?
We've talked a little bit about that. So one is recognize that the hustle and grind is not a sustainable mode of operation. And the way that I talk to people a lot of times is like, look, number one, you're not a robot. And even then, robots need maintenance, right? And or I like to use Formula One. These people go crazy miles an hour, but they pit stop.
Yep, they're still coming in.
They're still coming in. And so we need these zones of recovery. Either it's returns and exits. Like if you're leaving your business to go on a vacation or go out of town and you're coming back, do you work up until the very last second of every day and then come back and hit the ground running the night before you've even gone and don't even go to bed because you're just trying to catch up, and trying to hit the ground running? This is one of those ways to where reentry burns and it creates burnout. So you have to, concept of recovery happens in multiple different ways, and everyone's a little different. But you should be taking recovery moments on a weekly basis, on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, and even perhaps on a daily basis to be able to operate at a super high level, because being effective and being successful in business does require that you are operating optimally, like a sports car, right? You still need gas, you still need oil, you need a little fine tuning, you need some new tires. But I don't think people pay into themselves enough to sustain the pace. And so it starts out thrilling and adventurous, if you will, but it quickly turns to overwhelm. And that's a sure sign that you need to actually stop working, get up, go do something else. So, like I said, whether it's your daily routine, what you're doing for yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, physically, those things that you're doing to recharge, but also taking the breaks. I've implemented what I call the CEO Mom Day. Now, this was when my kids were younger and I needed to take care of more mom stuff during the week. So Fridays were my CEO Mom Day, I called it. Now I use it to close loops and recharge, to give myself more freedom. As Fridays, that's what those things are for. But as a business, we do low power mode once a quarter. Like if your phone goes into low power mode and you put it battery savings, in which we have absolutely no client meetings. We don't take client meetings those week. And it is, well, I won't say totally meeting free. We haven't quite mastered that. There's a lot less confines on expectations. And it's really just a time for us to catch up, take a breath, and get ready for the next quarter. And it's impactful in the company because, I don't know, it gives us enough room to breathe.
Yeah. Do you find like all the things that just no one's had time to get to internally because there's always external focus, client meetings, like does a lot happen during that week that's like, oh man, we're in such a better position now to push forward because we've taken care of these things?
And usually it's me, I'll be honest. I can be the biggest bottleneck in the business. And anytime I realize where I am the bottleneck, I remove myself because it's just a sign, right, that a growth moment needs to happen. But it is that time we get caught up, put things to bed, close loops again, and get prepared for the next quarter. So I do use it as a good time. I think last time I wound up writing 10 articles, wow. I think.
Nice.
On top of a few other key projects in there. So it is that time that gets us moving and keeps us moving. So yeah, we use it internally and to just tidy up on client work as well.
Awesome. Well, I just came back from a 3-week vacation, and it was my first long vacation where I did not work at all, and it was something that I had been building up for all year. I set that as a goal, even before the start of the year. I told my team, like, I'm going to do this. We're going to
Yeah.
build the right system. 'Cause I'm a small team,
Yeah.
still very small business, but I'm good at the daily recharge. I'm good at the weekly recharge. I advocate it for my team, but never had that just willpower or to check my ego enough to actually take a full vacation off. And it was great. And I feel so good coming back, and it just sets the tone for how I want to continue to build this thing into the future.
So what you just shared, though, is monumental, and it was so natural, I think, for you to do it, and you could see that path. I just want to call it out for a second, because you said we made the plan. We put in the time and the process and the work to make it possible.
Yeah,
and
just happen.
Didn't just happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just happen, because we help a lot of clients do that. But it is so super sweet when you do take it. But it does take a little bit of planning and preparation to make it possible. But was it hard? Probably not. It's just intention. Again, intention.
Yeah. Once the decision was made, put some thought and some time into like developing the plan, making sure we had a solid process so that everybody knew where they could make decisions without me, and what kind of things we needed to escalate and where to go when those situations came up. So it was seamless in the end. And
perfect. That'll be super fun.
I'm most proud of this year.
I would be most proud of it as well. The challenge will be not taking things back.
Yep, exactly. I kind of caught myself last week dipping my hand into the jar, pulling out the cookie. Wait, no, you got that. You
put it back.
You don't need me. You did great without me. So,
isn't it entertaining?
It is. Yeah, I find myself in those moments more than I care to admit, but it's part of the process. Yep.
It's part of the process.
So, Leslie, let's talk about financials a little bit. Like, you've worked with businesses to help them achieve predictable profits.
Yep.
And that's the name of the game. Could you share, like, what are some strategies or systems that owners can implement to get more predictability at the end of the day, to have that sense of we know what's going to happen when it comes to financial outcomes?
Yeah, I think one of our most impactful tools, we do it several different ways. So I like to say we like to look to the past and look to the future all at the same time while being present in what's going on today. Obviously, from the past, we want to learn from what the business is telling us. So I feel like your business financials tell you a story. They tell us more than you might know. However, there's always this gap between the information you get from your CPA or your bookkeeper and what to do with it. What does it mean? And so we tend to bridge the gap. So we're looking for what's the gold and how we can move forward. From a moving forward standpoint, we like predictable cash flows. We use a software called PocketSmith. No, QuickBooks doesn't do it. I'm sure they're going to advance to it at a certain day, but this is an amazing predictive tool. It, I will say, was intended for personal finance management, but we use it in every majority of our businesses. And one of the things that I love about it is it has a calendar view of your money, and you can plug in scenarios. So if I said, TJ, I want you to hire 3 people next year, and you go, whoa, what's going on with that, right? We could actually plug in what that looks like. And then we could run scenarios on what would happen with revenue. And so the biggest thing we're looking for is where's the gap. And so it will tell us where you might fall short. And if we know, like if you knew in 3 months you had a potential, what we call red day, where you would go into the red, you could make decisions and you could mitigate that. But a lot of times that's a surprise. So we use that as a pretty good tool to be able to be brave enough to make those expenditures, but also have the wherewithal to know when something's coming our way and we have enough time to do something about it versus, shoot, we don't have enough money to make payroll tomorrow, right? We don't want that situation.
No one wants to be in that situation.
No one does. And I think the third one is we actually put a plan to the profits. So we put purpose to profits, so that your profitability isn't dwindled away in ways that are less than meaningful for the business and for the business owner. And so it takes this compilation of looking at your money and different viewpoints to actually be able to understand the profitability of your business. And the way that this changes the business is, even for my business owners out there that are like, oh, but it wouldn't work for me because I have a seasonal business. I have ups and downs and hills and valleys. That's the roller coaster ride. That was very fun in the beginning of your business life. Not so much fun later. This gets you off the ride. The ups and downs, the peaks and valleys in your business, they'll still exist. But what if you didn't have to go along for the ride?
Sounds pretty sweet to me.
And that's what this does. And when you get off the ride, so to speak, you actually see your profitability and your financial stability increase because you're able to take advantage of the situations. You're able to plan for your rainy days that I don't know, April through June is our low season. Great, let's plan for those. Let's use the high season to coast through those time periods. And because we're not having to either pull back on our business investments in terms of growth, and because we're not worried because there's a lack of money, we make smarter and smarter business decisions. So I say the first year is a transition year. We're learning new habits. Year 2 is where the power starts to kick in. 3 and 4 and 5, you amplify. So it is it's a journey in and of itself, but we've had business owners go do things like make their top line number their net income, their personal take home number, and do that within a year. We have clients that have been able to pay off houses and fund trips, buy their kids cars, and do so out of cash. But and these aren't crazy businesses. I'm like, this is not Elon Musk I'm talking about. No. These are normal everyday businesses. But what you're going to have to do is stop managing cash in your business like you manage cash in your personal life. Because they have different behaviors, different intentions. I don't know. We have seen the power of this time and time again. Even for myself, like in 2019, I put myself on the system in 18. Have been putting it into everyone's businesses since then. In 19, at the end of the year, I had the ability to pay for 95% of my business expenses in full for 20. Well, you remember what 20 was like.
Yeah.
It was not fun. I had a death in my family, not COVID related, just age and heart condition. And anytime I've experienced a death in my family, it pulls me out of my business for several months. Yeah. So I had that on top of 2020 happening. But I was prepared. And so I wasn't fretting. I could still sleep at night. I knew what the plan was. I knew, we had that and reserves, so I could coast for a while until I was able to come back from that and rebuild. Because like a lot of other people, it impacted us. Speaking is our number one form of marketing up to that point in time. And guess how many speaking engagements
are? Yeah, that goes down to 0.
big 0. And virtual.
Find a new path.
Yeah, I got to find a new path, right? And we had to rebuild just as much, but we could go through that time period. But honestly, I don't know that I would have been able to do it without those strategies.
Wow, that's powerful. I'm feeling like that strategy is definitely an answer to this question, but I wanted to ask you, like, where do you see business owners leaving money on the table? Is it just not having the clarity when it comes to financials, or are there things that you see where you find quick wins to be able to inject more profitability into a business?
Yes. So yes, to so many levels. I think part of it is money management. We see a lot of people operate or adopt 2 different types of personalities. One is the ostrich, blah, 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 what I don't see won't hurt. If I just take care of revenue, everything else will work itself out. Or the rhinoceros, where you're constantly running to put out fires, running to do this, running around like a madman. So getting on these strategies definitely gets you to where we say like the wise owl. You can see more, you can do more, you make better decisions. But I also think that the ways that you discount all those low-hanging fruit, I find that more business owners discount the low-hanging fruit than they do taking advantage of it. So that quick wins is something we're always looking for. We do a thing called the business audit where we look at the financials, and that's one of the things we're looking for is how much cash can we activate in a business. If you have clients, if you're generating income, you're likely not taking advantage of 10, 20, or 30% of low-hanging fruit. Right? And that's money that you can activate to invest in the future growth of your business. That's the very tangible way. I think the intangible way is when we look at capacity. So a lot of people have been building their businesses for so long, but they haven't taken the time to let the business building capacity catch up. Right? And so we'll come in and see where a business may be operating at like 60% of their capacity. And if we get them to 80, and I'm going to tell you 100 is not feasible. We're never shooting for 100. But if I can get you to 80 to 85, that's 25% of your business that goes straight to the bottom line. Yeah. Right? And those are really quick ways to get cash infusion in the business.
It's amazing. And I'm sure selling the business is a pretty common conversation with clients. Most of us want to sell our businesses someday. What are the factors there that you look at, and what should owners like ourselves consider when thinking about the viability of selling our businesses down the line?
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is stop breaking even. Because if you're breaking even, especially if you're breaking even to avoid taxes, you're not creating a sellable business. And it's a different strategy. When we get clients that are like, I want to sell in 3 to 5 years, we're like, phenomenal, let's get to work. We can create a sellable story in that time frame. The biggest thing is like, okay, I love you. You're going to hate me, but you're going to have to start paying taxes. And they're like, what? And I'm like, people are buying businesses based on profitability, not on revenue. Profitability. And yes, they can do all these ad backs and but you have to be careful of the story that your business financials tell. Yep. And we have a client right now, nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with the way that they've been operating. However, their business financials tell a story of a business not worthy of selling. And that is not the story that will serve them. So we want to bring things into alignment. In your financial management, your profitability is massive. But we've already talked about the other part is that systems, the strength of your team, the ability for you as the owner to no longer exist. Excuse me. This is a little bit of what they call owner dependency. If you can't take 3 weeks out of your business,
let me tell you, it's probably not a sellable business.
Probably not a sellable business. So I think a lot of people have put in place that their business is their retirement vehicle. Again, another vehicle. But a retirement vehicle, understand that you have to be doing better to have that plan pay off. But the good news is, if you can get all those pieces in place at least 3 years before you sell, your business is actually going to pay you double, because you're going to get so much more in profits. The plan that we just put together, we're actually going to get a third of the total compensation that we're shooting for just from the increase in profits, and 2/3 from the sale of the business, which is a third more than the business owner was asking for.
Wow.
Now that's our plan, right?
Yeah. Plans need to be put into action.
Got to be put into action, require a lot of things, but we got to put the best foot forward. So I say, if you're going to sell your business, be careful of the story that your business is telling, because any outside interest that's looking in to buy, they're going to pick your story apart. That's their role.
That's their job.
That's their job. It's not to believe all the sunshine and flowers and roses. It's to find all the dirt. Don't give them any dirt to find. Fix it all.
Yeah.
And it just preserves your valuation at such a higher level than it would need to be. But the other part is understand who's your likely buyer. Because you're going to have to be at a certain level to be attractive to more buyers. It's either that or you might need to be cultivating your buyer from within.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of factors, but I generally say good business is good business. Good math makes good business, and a good business makes money. And a business that makes money is a business somebody else wants to buy because they want a return on their investment from you.
Yeah. I think it's such an important thing. I mean, I'm 31 years old. I'm a long ways off from this, but I've seen other people exit their business, some doing it on their own without that external guidance, and probably left a lot of money on the table, right? Because if you have been operating under a certain assumption of, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm maximizing or minimizing how much tax I'm paying, and thus maximizing how much I'm bringing in, and you're operating on that, and then you go to sell it, well, your financials are going to look like garbage to a buyer. So you need someone like Leslie here who can show you, well, this is how they're going to see it, and this is what they're going to start poking holes in, and it's going to make sense to you if you come at it with an open mind, and you'll probably gain multiples for what you pay for that type of service.
Exactly. All it takes is a little preparation, planning.
Yeah, planning a couple years in advance especially gives you a lot more time and runway to get things where they need to be. So, Leslie, as we move to wrap things up here, I have a choose your own adventure question that I ask my guests. So you can pick whichever one you'd like to answer, or both if you so desire. Any way you want. No rules here. But the first would be, what's a favorite place that you visited in, I'd just say any time in your life, or just a recent adventure you went on? It could be in your own city, your own backyard, for all I care. But in either case, what was it like? What made it so memorable? Maybe a favorite meal or drink you had, just a memorable moment, a lesson you learned. Give us a story.
I will say my heart city is Barcelona.
Barcelona.
I studied abroad in Spain, so I have an affinity for Spain. My husband, for my 40th, which is 10 years ago, asked me, he goes, hey, why don't we go to Napa for a week? Let's put together some nickels and dimes. And I was like, exactly how many nickels and dimes? And I was like, not to be nosy, but how much you thinking? And he told me, I was like, so for a few more nickels and dimes, we could go to Barcelona. And so we did. We took our entire family to Barcelona. I happen to be a Christmas baby, so my birthday's on the 28th, so we were there for New Year's Eve, which is not as big of a deal abroad as it is, here, but it was an amazing trip. And I was sitting there crying the night that we were coming home, packing up to come home. And I was telling my husband, I was like, we could have a family in 5 and 800 square feet. We could do this. And he was like, totally. I was just, I have always felt at home in Spain. So that's part of our next phase, as it will, because we're entering into that empty nester phase. But our next phase is like, we want to move abroad. That's been the plan, and we want to live there for 10 to 15 years. And it's so funny because everyone's like, why? I mean, what if you have grandbabies? And I was like, I'm like, you know what they've got? They've got these magical things that are in the air. They're called airplanes.
They just take you where you want to go. It's amazing.
I know, it totally is. I was like, believe me, I will see if we get there, when we get there, I will see them. It'll be fine. Or I'll bring them to me. It'll be fine. But you make happen what you want to make happen. And so that is a magical place for me. And probably within Barcelona, it's the Sagrada de Família. So the cathedral being built by Antonio Gaudi. It's another heart place for me.
Oh, love it. Yeah. Spain's high on my list. My wife's been, I've never been. Like you, we plan to live abroad. In the season we're in right now, we spend a lot of time abroad, either for vacation or workcations, work trips. Yeah. And traveling is just a big part of our lives. So no limits.
As well.
If you want it, you can go make it happen.
Yeah,
And,
I agree.
yeah.
I'm always happier traveling.
Yep. Yeah, me too. I'm actually heading to Denver this weekend, and then spending 2 weeks in Banff, going up there for a conference, and spending
Nice.
a couple weeks after just exploring around. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, I think there's a train from Banff that goes that way. I'll have to go back and look at it for you.
Yeah,
I've done the research.
For me, and I have done very little research. This was pretty spontaneous because
Yeah.
my wife's CEO was like, "Hey, we need to go to this conference." And whenever one of us goes to a conference,
Oh,
we
yeah.
typically
Why
both
not?
go, because why not?
Yeah.
We can maximize that, and so it'll be an awesome trip.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, Leslie. Well, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's listening on this whole episode and is feeling stuck, they're just feeling stuck in their business right now, what would it be? What would you tell them?
Don't be afraid to redefine the rules.
You made
If
them
you
yourself,
can't-
more than likely, so.
You made them yourself. You can redefine them. If you don't like where you are, choose where you want to be. And don't be afraid of it if you don't land on the right answer the first time. The only way to stop being stuck is to take action. No matter how imperfect, any action is better than no action. Period.
Wise words. Very few things are life-alteringly permanent. So just do what feels right, and if it's wrong, so be it. You can figure out where to pivot next.
Every no will lead you to a yes.
Amen, Leslie. Where can people find and support you online? Website, socials, things of that nature.
Sure. We actually have a special little page for your audience. I know. Woohoo! So it's at yourbizrules.com/adventurous entrepreneurs. So just the podcast name. We've got a few goodies there. One, we talked a lot about vision. I recheck my vision at least once a year, because we evolve as humans. So if that's an exercise you haven't done for a while, we've got a free little download for you to be able to do that and think about your personal and your business and what you'd like it to be. But also, if you're interested in those books, we've got those available for you to be able to check out. And always, if you need me, I'm here. So there's a way that you can get in touch and see if that's a good fit for you.
Amazing. Well, we will drop links to all of that in the show notes. And
thank you.
If what if what Leslie shared has resonated with you, highly recommend reaching out to her. I know I'm going to be taking advantage of these resources because it is important. You got to revisit your vision. If you're not happy with where you're at, redefine the rules. There's nothing stopping you except for yourself. So Leslie, thank you for a refreshing conversation, and wishing you the best with the launch of your new book.
Thank you so much, TJ. It was a blast to be here with you.
To all of our adventurous listeners, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share this on social media or with someone you know will get some value from it. Leaving a review goes a long way in helping people find the show, and I personally appreciate reading them when they come in. So please go drop one if you have the time. We'll see you all next week, and remember, whether we're talking about business or the things that bring us joy outside of work, life is meant for exploring. So go out there and live it one adventure at a time.